This week on the 1040 podcast, we're joined by Feebee Foran, the force behind Forager, the award-winning Irish skincare brand hand-foraged in the Dublin Hills. Known as the Green Witch, Feebee's path ran through retail, journalism and brand comms until COVID lockdowns and the Bohernabreena allotments sparked Forager. She's also the co-founder of Grow A Lot, helping people reconnect with nature and their mental health through growing their own food. It's a story about instinct, reinvention and building something from the ground up. This episode is brought to you by Top Drawer Talent, the supply chain procurement recruitment specialist, and Nesta Storage, Dublin's #1 self-storage provider. You can get 25% off your first month storage using code CS25. Let's get into it. Here we go. Feebee, thanks very much for coming in. We're good to go, yeah? All right.
We're already in. We're already in.
But what is a forager?
Do you know, I get asked this question all the time, and it's a funny one because I think I've always been a forager, so it's like second nature to me to forage. So to be a forager is someone who just goes out in nature and picks plants. Okay. Basic. That's the basic part of it. But I do it for different reasons. Right. And throughout history, people have done it for different reasons, be it for medicine, be it for food, for healing, for lots of different reasons. So for me, I do it because I have a skincare brand called Forager, and I collect the plants, and that's what I harness to make my products. But also I'm a clinical herbalist, so I will collect plants to take care of people who have ailments and help them feel better.
Brilliant. How did you get into this, right? Was this always an interest to you, when you were growing up, or we just from being out in the fields kind of picking berries?
Woke up one day.
I
to be honest, I will never know enough about plants. I will never know enough about plants. I think you can live 10 lifetimes and still never know enough about plants. It's a constant learning. So I don't think anybody just was able to just go, oh, let's just do this. You definitely have to have had an interest in it or a learned experience with it. For me, it started very young in life. My dad was a nature person. He was a fisherman, a hunter, and big into plants. He was an artist as well, a carpenter. So everything was very tactile, and he worked with his hands. So he would have brought me and my brother along on this journey of being interested in nature and what was growing. One of my very early memories is waking up, coming down the stairs in my jammies, and there being a board at the bottom of the stairs with bunnies hanging from their ankles that he had been out collecting that morning. But it was and today it's a very different way, but it's a self-sufficient lifestyle. And anything that was hunted, we ate. It was our life, you know. So I was kind of brought up with nature being brought into the home, but also at nighttime, going to bed, the stories that he would have told us would have been not like the fairy tales of princesses being rescued. It would have been about kingfishers and that he saw and badgers and foxes. And so for me, real life fairy tales were nature.
Right. Okay.
So it's always been in my bones to be attached to nature.
Okay.
So that's where it began.
That's where it came. And was the plan always to be an entrepreneur when you were younger, or did you even consider did you even think it was going to be something that you ever done?
No. Do you know, I've worked for everybody else. I have made money for everybody else all of my life. I'm 45 now, and I started Forager when I was 40. And it started out of COVID. It was never a thing I'd planned on doing. Now, I probably did always have aspirations. Everybody has an aspiration that they want to, do their own thing, not have a boss. Whereas for me, I've always been a creative. I've always had things going on. I studied the herbalism thing for myself. It wasn't something to for a job. I just was so interested in nature. I wanted to learn more. So that was something I'd just done for me. And then during COVID, I had the space. We all got let go from jobs, and I had the space to kind of explore this side of myself that was always a passion project, but make it and it happened. Forager as a business is as much as a surprise to me as it is to anybody else, because before then I'd worked in I'd studied journalism. I come from a family of storytellers. I've always been fascinated with storytelling. So I studied journalism and media in college, and I then went into a good strong 20-year career of brand identity, communications, PR, helping to tell other people's stories, helping to mold the stories of other brands. So I think then when Forager happened and I realized actually this could be a thing. Listen, the ADHD in me, if I decided it in the morning, by that nighttime, I had designed a brand book. I had written the language. I knew what the logo was going to look like. I had the visuals of it all in my head. all of those transferable skills just came rushing back.
Was the name easy for you to come up with then as well, or?
I had like a couple of different ideas on what it was going to be called. It was going to have something to do with foraging.
Yeah.
And I actually contacted 2 friends of mine who were like marketing queens. And I said to them, guys, I have this idea and here's all the names that I have kind of thrown around. And it was like Feebee Forager, because people call me Feebee the Forager. The Green Witch, I get called that a lot. So I was like, trying all these different names. But I was like, I need to separate me from it so that it can stand on its own 2 feet. And I'm a forager, and that's how I make my products, and that's it. It's forager. Yeah. So that's it kind of was like one of those bing light bulb kind of moments. Yeah.
And was it hard for you to get the name, like, or was the domain name available? And
it was available. It was all
Brilliant.
available. The IE was available as a business name. It was available. I was like, someone about to tap me on the shoulder and go, the jig is up.
Yeah.
You know, this is all too bloody easy. But no, I was just very lucky that like there's a computer game called Forager, as well. But within Ireland and within my industry, I was absolutely good to go.
All right, brilliant. And Tallaght Person of the Year 2025, has that been your biggest accolade so far?
God, well, it was in the environment category, and that was a huge one because look, like I'm a local girl. I'm from Fairhouse, and I've been brought up like. And I'm very strong on pride of place. I'm very proud of where I come from, and I talk about Tallaght and Fairhouse and like that. I do a lot of my foraging is all in Bohernabreena and the Daughter, so that has always been like it's in my ether, it's in my bones. So and I've always looked at looked at who was the Tallaght Person of the Year, over the years. So to be, I was nominated a couple of times, but then to win the environment category for my work in working with the locality was huge. Absolutely humongous. Like it was a pride moment, and I know pride can be a bit of a dirty word. Not for me. I'm like, I am so proud of that. so proud of that. Yeah, that was a big one.
That's brilliant. Going all the way back though, school, right? How was school for you, like coming through? Like, what did you enjoy school? Did you
hated it?
Yeah,
hated it. I was an absolute like you won't shut me up now. I'm a chatterbox to my core. But when I was in school, I was a meek little mouse. I didn't know my place in the ecosystem of a community school where there were people from lots of different backgrounds, lots of alpha led groups, lots of cliques, and it wasn't like if you were to offer me 10 million to go back and do a year in secondary school again, I would say keep that money. I will. No, absolutely not. I hated it. I made a couple of friends, and those friends are still friends of mine today. But I was the person who sat on their own at lunchtime. I was someone who felt completely out of place. I was a geek, that's what you would call me at that point. And I didn't say a word out of just pure mortification to hear my own voice. And it wasn't until I hit like transition year in school that and like I know a lot of people will give out about TYs and it being a year that go off track and you don't get your focus and all that. For me, it was a year that I really kind of found myself, because I was thrust in with different groups. I had to push myself to if I was doing a work experience, I had to go and speak to people that I wasn't used to. I had to pick up a phone and ring people. It really, really pushed me out of my comfort zone. And I set up, I was at the time, the travesty had happened over in Chernobyl. And my aunt and uncle were very, very involved in the Chernobyl Children's Project with A.D. Roach. So I decided to start a little charity within the school. And people took to it and they really got involved with it. It was kind of a topical thing at the time. And people got involved in it, and we started doing lots of different fundraisers. And that then gave me access to lots of different people who were like, oh, actually, I didn't think that they would have been into this, but they seem to be. And you know what I mean?
Everyone
and it gave me access to different people. And that's where I kind of found my voice.
Oh, okay, class.
Still wouldn't go back for love nor money.
No, that's fine. Did everyone in your year have to do transition year, or was it an optional year?
The year that I did it, it was the first time that they called it LCAP, which was Leaving Cert Applied. That was the first year that Leaving Cert Applied was actually put into schools. Up until then, everybody had to do TY.
Okay.
And so I think that's why it kind of, it got a bit of a bad rep, because it wasn't for everyone. People who were very academically driven, it took them off track. People who weren't academically driven and were more hands-on or creatives loved it.
Right.
And although I was a smart kid, I was definitely more a creative kid.
Yeah.
So I think that's where
You thrived
yeah,
then.
I thrived then. Yeah.
Class. Were you academic then in school, or were you, like, I know you said you were more creative, right?
I
But
was definitely more
would you have
creative.
got on well academically?
Yeah, I did. I did grant. I was always really, really good with English and history and art. So,
Okay.
like, they would have been my mainstays.
Yeah.
Maths, absolutely not. Even to this day, if I have to count something in my head, I almost go into a cold sweat. I don't have that access to that part of my brain.
Okay,
It just
doesn't work.
no. Thank God for calculators. But like it's but in the creatives, in the English, in the like writing stories, in reading, that kind of stuff. Art, history, where I got to learn things that really interest me, and I felt like I could take a grasp of.
Yeah.
That's where they're the classes that I absolutely loved.
Okay.
And even to this day, like when you think about it, the English, the storytelling, the brand comms, all that kind of stuff,
It all worked.
art. What I do, like I'm a graphic designer as well from
Yeah.
my past as in working in brands, and history and folklore and stories that I tell with in relation to the plants.
Correct.
It's
That all
carried
kinda
through.
makes- Yeah. Okay. So it's kind of carried all the way through from such a young age, which is brilliant. That would have been maybe from the stories and stuff at bedtime and being out in nature
Yeah.
and kind of how it all flowed. All right. And college then, was that always on the cards for you, or did you think you were going to skip college, or?
I knew I was going to go to college basically because my dad really wanted me to go to college.
Okay.
My dad's passed now, but he really wanted me to go to college because I would have been the first in the line on the Foran side of the family to go to college.
Oh, brilliant.
And this was a thing for him. And he definitely wanted me to be a lawyer or a doctor. I was never going to be a lawyer or a doctor. I wanted to work in the arts in some place, and I got a leave insert applied role or a course in like an arts course
Yeah.
in the Liberties. But then when my CAO came out, I got this place in Griffith College, studying humanities, which is journalism and media.
Yeah.
So when that came up, even if I wanted to do the course in the arts,
Yeah.
my dad was like, "No, you're going to journalism college."
Oh, really? Yeah.
Oh, a decision was made for me. Do you know what I
Alright.
mean? And the thing is, I was that meeker
Yeah.
kid. But in fairness, I think a lot of it was because he knew that I would thrive in it.
Yeah.
It wasn't coming from a place of this is what you're doing and that's
Okay.
It was more of a place of I know you've got this in you, and all I needed was to believe in myself. And I think for some reason I had pigeonholed myself, and oh no, I'm good at the drawing.
Right.
Maybe that's where I'm better.
Yeah.
And he saw this other part of me, that the storytelling, all that kind of stuff would actually really, really stand to me. So I'm very, very grateful that he did shove me out the door to go and study.
Yeah.
Because once I got to college, I loved it.
Right.
I absolutely loved it.
And did you know, like, at that stage, like, that you wanted to go into marketing, or did you have any clue? You're just like, I'm just going to college because this is something that I'm being told I need to do.
I thought I would end up in journalism once I got into the course and I started to kind of feel out that whole thing.
Yeah.
It was a 4-year degree. I thought I was actually going to go and become like a reporter, a journalist.
Right.
And that was where I kind of, because it's the storytelling.
Yeah.
That's what I kind of was really, really interested in, or being an author. And I'm writing a book at the moment with a friend of mine. That will happen.
Yeah.
But I think that's where I kind of saw it was writing.
Yeah.
It didn't happen like that, because anyone who's a young journalist will tell you, when you go to a paper and ask them, can I go write for you? They're like, show me your portfolio, show me your published work. And you're like, well, I don't have any because I need to get in somewhere before I can get that.
Yeah.
So I ended up then in roles then that were writing, but not journalism. It was writing for other brands. So I wrote brand stories. I actually wrote books for brands or with brands. And like, my name isn't on anything. It's more that I was writing
kind of
with
like
them.
a ghostwriter, would it be?
Kind of like that, yeah. But like, it's when you're writing like that, you're writing you're taking on a language of a brand and helping to develop that language and how that story and that message is sold to their audience.
Yeah.
So I really cut my teeth in brand comms, in
Okay.
that side of things and I always kind of then steered through those roles.
Right. Okay. Yeah. No, that's fair enough. What would have been like your first ever job?
I worked for Barretts Shoes in the square, and I earned £2.52 punts an hour.
Okay.
And I thought I was deadly because friends of mine
You're
were
worth a fortune.
friends of mine were working in a Heron's pub in Tallaght, and they were earning £2.50 an hour, and I was earning £2.52, and I thought this was absolutely brilliant. But like that was the minimum wage at the time.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
know I sound like a dinosaur, making myself sound really bloody old. I'm only 45. Like, so that would have been like I got a
Yeah,
job.
what age are you when you had that?
I got a job. Once I turned 16, I got a
You
job.
got a job. Okay.
Yeah, once I turned 16, and once I was allowed to. So I was, and then I went and I worked in Dunn's. I did all those jobs.
Yeah.
I worked in shoe shops and clothes shops and all those type of jobs, all throughout my college as well. So I was always working, doing something
You always
of
had
an
something
evening.
on the go, right?
Yeah, always doing something of an evening. Yeah.
And were you doing anything like on the art side of things, or like on the herbal side of things, or
Not
the
at that
plant side of
point.
things,
Like
no?
it was always an interest, but here it was the 90s, and I was distracted by blue mascara and going to
the park.
going to the Aberley of a Thirsty Thursday. I had a whole other level of interest at that stage. But I genuinely think that nature will call you back when you need it.
Yeah.
So the interest was always there. It never left me, but I did have just different priorities for those years.
Yeah.
But then it wasn't until I lost my dad in 2017 that literally nature came back and punched me in the face and said, "You need me now."
Oh, okay.
Now, up to then, I had been studying to be a herbalist. I had been growing food. I have an allotment up in Bohernabreena, but not to the. I hadn't the nature. Me needing nature.
Yeah.
I was doing those things because they were just things I like to do.
Yeah.
It wasn't a case that I needed this
Okay.
until my dad died, and then I needed it.
So that kind of helped you with the grieving process then.
Yeah, like the best way I can describe it is that like I dug my grief into the ground.
Okay.
I dug holes and I buried my grief.
Yeah.
And with everything that I planted, newness grew.
Yeah.
And at a time, I think a lot of people can identify that, especially if you've experienced grief and the grief of a parent, you know, the loss of a parent that you're very, very close to, that your world feels like it's upside down.
Yeah.
And you kind of don't know your horse from your elbow, really. You don't know whether you're coming or going. And for me to be able to find something that I could like grab onto and trust and have a tactility to, like I always say that like with nature, you always know that at the end of the day, it's going to be nighttime. You know that after winter, spring is coming. The seasons will always happen. The days will always happen. And so nature is something that you can naturally put a trust in because you don't have to worry about that. That's just going to happen.
Yeah.
And for me, that's what happened. I everything else in my life was upside down. I just had to put my trust into nature.
Yeah.
So I was planting all these little seeds up in the allotment, and I knew that they knew these plants, these seeds, once I put them into the ground, they knew what to do next. I didn't have to worry about them. If I put a cucumber seed into the ground, that knew to become a cucumber plant. I didn't have to worry about that. It knew what to do.
Okay.
I just had to water it. And that absolutely helped me through my grief.
That's brilliant. And I suppose, would you have been out like hunting with your dad then as well, or would that not have been
We would
something
have gone fishing and stuff like that. No, anyone who has ever been a hunter of any sort will tell you that having young people around while you're hunting is an absolute nightmare because you have to be very, very quiet. You have to be very, very, very quiet. And no, so no, but it was still part of our ether because he was bringing stuff home, and it was part of our like family life. Do you know what I mean? But no. I think, he wouldn't have brought home any bounty. We would have all starved if he had brought us out with him.
Yeah. Is there anything like, I suppose, interesting that you've eaten that you didn't think that you would have liked the taste of, or were you kind of obviously just kind of open-minded to try anything?
Oh, like I've eaten things like wood pigeon and like rabbits was very, very easy. Venison's very easy. But wood pigeon probably would be a funny one. I don't think people see pigeons cooing in the bushes and go, "I'll eat that."
That's look, you're probably anything when you're hungry. But
I know. But that's the thing, when you're brought up in a life where that is part of the way. Do you know
just
what I mean?
try it,
It's and the fact when things are collected with care. And because there is a stigma attached to
treat it with respect.
You treat it with respect, you care for the animal, you thank it for giving of itself to you. Do you know what I mean? And like for anybody who does eat meat and goes to the butchers, you don't get that experience.
No.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So although it can be a bit taboo, if it's done correctly and done with with an ethos and with a care and a respect for nature, it's a much gentler way to take care of wildlife.
Yeah, it's part of human nature too, right? It is what it is. But going back then to your career, right? So your first ever job, you're in Clark, or you're in the square in the shoe shop. What was your job then after you finished college? Like, what was the very first job you actually got?
I went. Oh, actually, while I was in college, I was running an opticians in Henry Street. That's so. When I finished college, I was like a assistant manager kind of thing.
Okay.
Running a Vision Express opticians, and then I ended up becoming the youngest store manager of their flagship store in Ireland at the age of 26 with a team of 18. I had no business.
Yeah, jeez.
Running a team of that big. I had no business with a team of that big. Like looking back now, as someone who has staff now at 45, I had no business at 26 with a team of 18. I don't know what they were at, but yeah, but that gave me a very, very, big insight into managing people, personalities, different departments.
Would they have trained you to be a manager, or did you just
we do. Yeah, but like still, you're 26.
Yeah,
like
you're very young.
Yeah, like it's young. It's young, and I like, not to put anybody down who's 26 and listening, and if you're in a managerial position, but that's a lot of people.
Yeah, 18 is huge.
It's a lot of people to be managing. Like that's the kind of age that you maybe start entering into. I like trying to run, maybe have a small team, but 18 people is a lot of people, especially when they're all of different age profiles. And I was managing people who were like double, nearly triple my age, and so dealing with those type of personalities who did not want to be managed by somebody younger coming in and telling them what to do or guiding them. Life experience is huge. It's absolutely huge, and so I had to really, really adapt my management skills and realize that my management skills with one person might be completely different with another person, because some people need hard lines, some people need nurturing, some people need to have very firm boundaries, and some people need to be like handheld and guided along. So it was a learning curve, and I suppose it's formed who I am as a manager now. It's informed and also roles that I had after that informed me as the type of manager that I wanted to be and the type of manager that I didn't want to be.
Okay. When you're in that job at 26 at such a young age, would you have ever had to like fire anybody, or how did it feel like at that age? Like
gross, terrifying. Like I had to let one guy go because he threatened me, and he would still turn up to the job every day. That was very, very hard.
It's quite intense.
And then I had to let people go because they weren't performing. It was at that age, letting people go is it's well, at any age letting people go is awful.
Yeah.
It's like I've had to let so many people go over the years in different roles that I've been in different jobs.
Yeah.
And it's never a comfortable environment or experience for me, and I hope it never is.
Yeah.
Because I think you lose your humanity if you can't have empathy for somebody, even if they've done something that's that warrants it.
Yeah.
But I suppose in a lot of the cases it wasn't that they'd done something, they just didn't do something.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's kind of
they didn't perform to the level that they were expected to, and that's not necessarily a them problem. It might just be that role wasn't right for them.
Yeah.
So I think empathy has to come into your role as a manager. And I've had lots of managers throughout the years who had no empathy, and they're the ones that I don't want to be like.
Yeah.
Who would have called people a waste of space to their face, who would have been very, very hardline, who wouldn't have cracked a smile and set tones in a work environment, you'd arrive into work and the day you'd be bright and cheery, and then they'd arrive in and their tone would completely
suck the energy out of the room. Yeah.
Absolutely, and that happened to me for a number of years that I lived in. I lived through those environments, and I never want that environment in my not from me, but also not in my work environment. It's not what I want from my team. I don't want anyone in my team to ever feel like someone can come in and alter their day because of how they are.
Yeah, because it just ruins everyone's day. I suppose what was the decision process you made then to move out of that job? Like, did you got, and then is that when you started your first kind of digital marketing job, or?
Yeah, I got a job then. It just became too much at 26 with 18
Yeah.
staff. It was like, I am absolutely swamped here. And I was overloaded. And I went and I got a lovely job with a company called Timemark in Ballymount.
Right.
So, and I'm still really, really close with them.
Brilliant.
They are Seiko Ireland, so the watch company.
Oh, okay.
And so they would have had lots of different distribution rights for Seiko and Dolce & Gabbana and lots of different designer brands. So I worked with them, and to this day, like I am still, like, I was only in with them last week for a cup of tea, and they've been a huge support to me over the years. Lovely people, and I that was my kind of cutting my teeth back into going into brand comms then.
Okay.
So I would have done their kind of a PR. I would have done ads for them. I would have wrote a lot of, I suppose at the time, it would have been descriptions for products.
Yeah, that's big.
But like that, if you're writing descriptions for products and it's Seiko, you have to write in Seiko's language. And then I'm writing descriptions for a product for Dolce & Gabbana. Then you have to switch very quickly to Dolce & Gabbana's language, then to Moschino or to whoever I was writing for. You'd have to, Nike I was writing for at one point, you have to be able to completely continuously switch your brain.
Yeah.
And I think that's the
Is that a hard thing to grasp, like the different language styles for the different brands? Is that hard to do, or
Yeah.
are you constantly like ripping up the page and kind of starting from scratch constantly, or do you get the flow of it at some stage?
I think you have
that
to go
know
into a
that,
flow state. You absolutely have to go into a flow state, like, and you have to almost keep breaking up your day. So, like, I wouldn't be able to write something for Seiko and then 20 minutes later write something for D&G. I would have done something for Seiko in the morning,
right?
had my lunch, and almost like, okay, and now we're back.
Yeah, refresh.
And now we're going to go into the next bit. And you do almost have to like click your brain into a different groove.
Yeah.
Because you have to think from a different perspective. And anyone I think who works in brand identity will understand that it's a shift. But it's like when you have your own brand. I was very lucky to be able to write my own brand language for Forager in the way I am. So it's just a natural flow for me. Yeah. So I'm always in Forager mode. My brain, because it's me. I'm literally pulsing through the entire brand. I'm glad I don't have to keep switching my brain up.
Yeah, it's yours, right? So you don't have to change it, right?
I write everything. I do everything in my vernacular.
Yeah. Was there ever a stage where like you're like during that time like, geez, I could do this for myself, or are we still not thinking at that stage entrepreneurial? No,
like with Timemark, they were very good to me when they had end of line stuff. They would have given me product to sell, and like they'd look for costs, and I just make a cream off the top. You know what I mean? So I did. I suppose when I didn't really think about that. No, only that you said it now. So I do like little like Christmas sales and stuff like that. So. Maybe it was kind of in my brain, but I hadn't formulated it like it was.
Yeah, it was just like, this is just a little.
It was just extra. A side hustle.
Yeah,
it was a side thing, but I suppose. God, now I have to have a little think on that now.
Yeah. When you were leaving the opticians to go into that kind of role, what did you have to take a hit on salary, or did you kind of would you have been paid kind of fairly, let's say, in the opticians for managing 18 staff, or?
No. I wouldn't think so. I took the job in Timemark because it was a much better position, and it was doing something because at the time working in the opticians, I was absolutely exhausted, and I was kind of running on fumes at that point. And I was like, and also in the back of my head, I was like, if I stay in this role, I'm going to probably always be in this role, and I won't ever get to do the things that I have. My passion for, which is the storytelling and the writing. So when I kind of had to make that conscious decision that a shift had to be made, that for a future, for future Feebee. You know,
was it a hard decision to make, like where you like constantly just, did you get to like burnout point, or did you just decide before you got to that point that you were leaving?
I think I hit burnout point, but in the burnout point, I was like, I have to make a shift. And I think part of the burnout was me having this inner conflict that I'm not doing what I really want to do. Okay. I've just been on this ladder of progression, and now I'm at I'm the manager of the flagship store. Where do I go from here?
Yeah.
And at 26, where do I go from here? I'll probably end up having to move to England and work in their head office or something like that. Whereas I don't want to be doing that. I want to be here. I want to be working in the industry that I'd studied. So I had this inner conflict, always saying, but yeah, this is great, and you're on this trajectory, and you're learning, and you're getting the pats on the back, and all that. You're not getting a huge amount of money, but you're getting lots of pats on the back.
Told you're doing great, but that doesn't pay the bills, right?
Yeah. So I was like, do you know what? Enough. And I think it's probably a crossover of burnout and mental burnout of going, something has to give.
Yeah.
And I made the jump.
Right.
Quick pause in the conversation. This episode is sponsored by Nesta Self-Storage. Nesta are Dublin's leading self-storage provider with easily accessible locations right across the city. Their modern units are secure with round-the-clock CCTV surveillance and individual alarms, so your stock and equipment are protected at all times. With units ranging from 20 to over 300 square feet, Nesta has a solution for your storage needs. Stay for a month or as long as you need, with hassle-free access to your unit 7 days a week. Whether it's for your business, a house move, or simply making more space at home, Nesta makes storage easy. And right now, get 25% off your first month's storage using code CS25. Let's get back to it. Here we go.
And going all the way back, we're going forward, but back as well.
Yeah.
But in terms of like COVID then, right?
Yeah.
When you were let go, was that heartbreaking for you during COVID, or were you kind of happy?
I think everyone was kind of just in shock. I think we all went into a freeze state, to be quite honest. Like at that point, I was working for a jewellery company called Juvie, and absolute dream of a company, Irish business, husband and wife team. And I had a gorgeous role there as well, brand comms. And but like that, COVID happened so fast. Like I think we got news of it it was on the news like 2 weeks earlier that it had hit like in China, and then 2 weeks later we all were on a Zoom call going, we're closed, and I was like, okay. Now what we ended up doing was Juvie were very lucky that their workshop is in their garden. It's beside their house. Yeah. So I said although we were like all kind of let go, I was like, no, listen, in my spare time, I'm just going to keep pushing things out on social media and driving traffic to your website. And because you don't have to travel, you can pack your orders and still get them out. Yeah. And they end up doing really well as a result, because they were able to, like, they didn't have to travel. You know, we were all locked down to our 5K and our 2K. Yeah. They didn't have to worry about that. They were a couple. They were able to run it. I just kept driving traffic to them. And so that kept Juvie going. So when we opened back up again, I went back to Juvie.
Right.
So that was great. But in that interim time of COVID, when we were all locked down and stuck in our houses, I spent my days in my allotment.
Right.
So my allotment is 2.2k from my house, and it's a naturally socially distant activity, because you're in a little bit of land on your own. Yeah. And I was going up there I'd make myself a sandwich in the morning, putting my dog in the car, the two of us, and we'd just go up and we'd work in the allotment. And I treated that as my 9 to 5, just for my mental clarity, for my brain. To be and so I would be up there every day, and I'd take my lunch and I'd have my little egg mayonnaise sandwich or whatever I had, and I'd just work in the garden. So when I'd come home, I was exhausted, but I'd come home with plants and lots of different things that I'd collected up there. Right. And I'd be like, you know what, I should probably do something with these plants, because I know what they do. And so I'd start making little balms and stuff in the evening, or little skincare salves in the evening, stuff that I learned from studying to be a herbalist, that I'd never really had, because when I'd come home from work on my day job, you'd be exhausted in the evening, do you know what I mean? Whereas coming home from working in a garden, your synapses are all going. You're physically tired, but your brain is revived. Yeah. It's funny.
When did you decide to study as a herbalist? Like, was that a nighttime thing you done, or?
It was a thing so I started studying to be a herbalist maybe 2-3 years before COVID. Okay. And I was studying under a master herbalist over in Sligo called Stefan Joransson. Right. So I was going over to Sligo every month and studying. We were doing like a fully immersion thing. So I studied with him for 3 years. I think it was 3-4 years I studied with him. I will always be learning. Yeah. You'll never be like a master of I don't think of any of it. Like, you constantly are learning. But I adored it, and I ate up that course. I loved everything that I learned. It just opened my eyes up. So when I had the little allotment up in the mountains, like, I had up to that point been like growing like my potatoes and my different vegetables and stuff like that. I then start more and more medicinal plants start sneaking in. and I would start growing things that I was learning about because I wanted to be able to have them, to work with them. So and yeah, that's where it kind of the herbalism thing kind of was, but it was a thing that I was doing for me.
Yeah, it wasn't for anybody else. It was just like that's what you wanted to do. Right?
Never even planned on being a herbalist.
Yeah.
I just wanted to learn about plants.
And how long did it take you to get qualified, like as a herbalist?
So it was 4 years.
4 years.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Jeez,
it was 4 years, but like of going to Sligo every month.
Yeah.
For
Oh. So, and what do they have you doing on like a herbalist course, right? Like, are you like planting stuff and making different concoctions?
It's actually very scientific based.
Yeah.
It's very sciencey, because although like people will think of herbalists and think, oh, maybe it's a bit woo woo. There's actually so many studies that show what we do is like absolutely correct. So it was a lot of working with working with plants and learning their constituents, what their actions are, how they work with the body, how they work with different ailments, how they contraindicate with other medications, how you can harness them, how to pull the goodness from them for different people, for different things. So be it making a tincture, making decoctions, which is what I use for my salves, how to dry them, making teas, making honeys, making all sorts of different things. So it was kind of a cross section of like science-based, hands-on, working with plants in a physical perspective, but it was study heavy.
Okay, right. And is it academic or like, well, it is academic, right? But it's theory based, right? Or is it all practical, or is it a mix of both?
It's both.
Is it 50-50
I think it has to, and I would say it's probably more. Actually, could be 60-40, let's say.
Right.
More study and then hands-on. But I don't like. There's a lot of people who will do herbalism courses as distance training and distance study. I think you need to have that connection to the plants to really, really get that learning from them, because it's some of it's energy work.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And it's that, and it's a respect for the plants. So if you're just reading about things and learning about them, that's great. But being able to learn about them and actually being able to physically work with them, use them, pull the goodness from them, taste it, try it, see how it reacts with your body. Like everything that we worked with, we actually had to ingest.
Right. Oh, okay.
So like you would know what it would do. You could feel the difference.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah. Like there was one day we were working with St. John's wort, which is kind of illegal here in Ireland because it's so good for people with depression.
Oh.
It was taken off the market, but I can grow it and I can work with it as a herbalist. But we had harvested lots and lots and lots of St. John's wort, and it was all just sitting in the classroom that day while we were studying on the next bit. We were going to work with it again later on in the afternoon. Yeah. And while we were sitting there, fit of the giggles came over everyone in the classroom. Now, like for anybody,
like a natural high.
When I tell you there was snots, there was tears, we were absolutely choked up, laughing our heads off, almost euphoric. And then we're like, what in the name of God is going on? Like the silliest things were setting us all off. It turns out it was the St. John's wort just being in the room with us, was the spores of it were in the air, and we were breathing this in, and we were all absolutely having the best joyous day of our lives.
Really?
So it's just amazing how these plants actually have a really, really powerful and potent effect on people.
Yeah.
And to be able to harness that and be able to help people with them is an absolute joy.
Yeah. And what are you saying? It's illegal in Ireland, is it? Or
it was taken off the market here in Ireland. It used to be a very, very prominent medication for people who suffered with depression.
Okay.
And it was a highly effective way of helping people who suffer with mild to mid depression and anxiety, because it helps the central nervous system. It takes that off you. But it was removed from the market because it doesn't work well with antidepressive medications. So if someone is on an SSRI or a different type of medication, a sertraline or Lexapro or whatever, and takes St. John's wort as well, it contraindicates, it bounces, and it works in the opposite effect.
Okay.
So instead of trusting people that they'd either just choose one or the other, they took it off the market. Now that's what they said, but a lot of it is down to big pharma, because they don't like you being able to take care of yourself.
Too much profit.
That you can grow something in your garden and help with your depression.
Yeah, jeez.
Do you know what I mean?
Crazy.
So there's, if you were able to grow something to help with your depression, but there's it has to be done in a controlled measure.
Okay.
So don't go for, this is a public service announcement. Please don't go start growing it and growing it yourself and just start lashing it into yourself. You have to kind of know what you're doing. So by being treated with it. But it was something that was used for years here in Ireland. Years. Only until the 90s it was taken away.
Just that's crazy. Yeah. I wouldn't even know that. that's a possibility. That's
Yeah.
crazy. But so, like, how many things are you like learning how to make then? Like, or is it just like these are all the different varieties of plants and herbs, and this is what you can do with them, and this is what they're used for if you mix them, or
Yeah, yes. Oh gosh, like I can't. Like the thing is, like you learn so much. Like how many things do you learn in college, and then you kind of forget half of
Yeah.
it. So until you come back and work with it again, do you know what I mean? Yeah. So it would have been taking into consideration a lot of native Irish plants. So the plants that grow around us all the time.
Yeah.
So but like and even like the plants that I work with all the time, like daisies, nettles, chickweed, dandelion, like rose hips, hawthorn, the stuff that you pass every day and like when
no notice of it.
you take no notice of it, but once you start to actually get into the roots, let's say, of what these plants can do, it's absolutely mind-blowing. Okay, even if you never work with these plants for those reasons, but having that little bit of knowledge of what they do, it enriches your walk. Going, I know what that does. Or maybe you have you're not sleeping at night and you know that you've got like lemon balm growing in your garden that you know that you can go out and make a little tea of it, or you know what's growing in your garden, and just to be able to go, okay, I'm able to take a little bit of that and take a little bit of this, and to be able to harness what's growing around us.
It's crazy. But so, how come you went down the skincare route, right? And not, or do you make like herbs as well, or vitamins as well, or teas, or is it all skincare?
The skincare thing happened like that by an accident, really.
Yeah.
So when I was coming home from the allotment in the evening with these bits of plants and stuff like that, I would make little balms from them for me.
Yeah.
But like that again, it was COVID time. We were all massive oversharers on social media. And so I'd be putting up, look what I'm making today. Imagine making this. Imagine making this little balm with daisies. And this is what it does. It'll take care of bites and stings and bruises and wounds and scars and da-da-da-da-da. And I then start getting DMs from people going, oh, I'd love one of them.
Right.
So if they lived in my area, me and my dog, when we'd be out doing our little mental health walk, we were leaving little pots, and they were little jam jars, the little tiny jam jars that
Like
you
what
get.
you get like a hotel.
In a hotel, yeah. We were leaving them on people's doorsteps because obviously it was still social distancing. Yeah. And then I'd find myself up in like Super Value, and I'd have my mask on me, and someone be shouting over, are you the witch who can make me something for me migraines? Or are you the witch who can make me something for me psoriasis? And I'd be like, well, actually, yeah, I can.
Right.
So I'll make you something. So I started making more and more things. And then by the time COVID lifted, I was kind of steadily making things for people on order. And my batches went from maybe 4 to 30.
Whoa. Okay.
And, per batch of things. So I was like, oh, maybe there's something in this. So I got a call from a friend of mine. He was after setting up a little farmer's market down in Arklow. This is when COVID lifted.
Yeah.
And he goes, do you want to come down and sell your little balms at it? And I was like, I should go on.
Yeah, give it a bash.
I had done a car boot sale years ago,
Right.
and I was like, that was great fun. So I was like, maybe it'd be like that, So I brought a tablecloth, and I set up my little jars, and I set up all my bits and bobs, and put flowers in my hair, and thought I was the business. And I made €330 that day, and I thought, this is it. This is it. There's something. There's like that €330 could have been 3 million to me. What that €330 meant to me was that people actually want this.
Yeah. Was that the first time you charged for your product?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Everything else I was just leaving on people's doors. But yeah, so I was like, okay, maybe I'll do another one of these. And then all of a sudden I was literally doing a farmer's market, sometimes 2 a week. Saturday and Sunday. I was traveling all over the country, going to different farmers markets, and I just love the buzz. And like that again, COVID had lifted, and I was just delighted to be talking to people.
Jeez, yeah.
I'm a mauler. I'm a tactile person. I love hugs and I love touching. And so to be able to talk to the whites of somebody's eyes and not be on Zoom, I was just loving this and chatting to everybody.
Freedom, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so the farmers market is like the thing that kind of kicked you off just from one friend asking, hey, you want to just give it a bash?
Yeah.
And were you known as the Green Witch from that stage, or were you Feebee the Forager?
No, the Green Witch thing kind of happened when I started doing foraging walks.
Oh, okay.
So like that again, while I was doing this and doing the farmers markets and all that kind of stuff, people were like, oh, I'd love to learn about this stuff, because I was talking about the plants on my stand, and I'm like, yeah, this is what this one does, and that's what that plant does, and da-da-da-da-da. And they're like, oh, would you not just do like a walk and show us?
Up to Bohernabreena or whatever.
So I said, okay, fair enough. So everything was done because people kind of asked me to do it. It wasn't like, I'm going to do this, build it, and they will come. It was more of a case of people were saying, would you not do that? Oh, yeah, sure. Give it a lash, Jack.
Why not, yeah?
And so I started doing walks along the Dodder and Fairhouse, along the Weir, and down through Fairhouse. And I call them urban forages because I would actually bring people into housing estates and show them what's growing in your front garden, what's growing on like on the grass verge where you park your car, what's growing on the walk from your house to your kids' school, and so that maybe when you're going there, you can maybe look at things differently, and and then I'd bring them into the Dodder. But as part of it as well, I would kind of team it up with local history.
Okay.
Stories of the land, stories of where like all of our local areas kind of originated from, how the people lived, and so like the stories of like, why is the pub called the Speaker Connolly? Well, here's the story of William Connolly. So, bringing in all of these kind of little snippets of like bite-sized chunks of information.
I like
to think that my walks are full of tidbits that people will then, when they go to the pub, they go, did you know about this? Did you know why that's named that? Do you know what I mean? The people have like bite-sized chunks of information.
Yeah.
I don't tend to do it as Botany 101. It's not lots of heavy information. It's lots of bite-sized things that you can actively use.
Okay.
So from there, people be like, oh, there's your one going through the Dodder again. There's your one. That's the witch in the ditch.
How many people would you have had with you?
I generally between like 15 and 18 people at a walk.
Groups.
Yeah. Sometimes more, sometimes less. But generally around 15 to 18 people. And so they'd be like, here's your one. The ditch witch. It was started with the ditch witch.
Okay.
And the witch in the ditch. That's, I'd say, people recognise me by my arse first, because I was usually halfway in a ditch when they'd see me. And then it just kind of morphed, and the Independent got a hold of the story, and they kind of they wrote an article about me and it said, have you heard about the Green Witch at the Dodder? And that was the first that was the headline, and from there that kind of became, have you heard about the Green Witch at the Dodder? And then the Ireland AM stuff came from there.
Right. And how long did it take then, right, from like, starting all this stuff in your kitchen, taking people on walks, to getting stocked in shops? Like, how long did that take?
So I actually registered the business as a business at the end of that first summer. It's 2021, right?
Okay.
So on my birthday, I registered the business and gone, okay, let's just try. But I hadn't decided. I was still working for Juvie. I was still working full time. So this was my every night, coming home from a day's job, standing over a cauldron, making bams, and then every weekend going out and doing farmers markets. And so I registered it, and then the following year, my following birthday, I handed in my notice.
Okay.
And then I went to showcase I started working with my local enterprise office, so the Leo in South Dublin, which have been absolutely like an extension of my team. They have done so much for me, and been like for anybody who is at the very early days of starting a business, maybe you're even only at the ideation stage, contact your local enterprise office. The support that you get, not only just from mentoring but also from money.
Yeah.
That's what you need. You need capital.
Yeah.
So I started getting mentorship and stuff like that. And with the local Leo, they put me forward to be part of their group that we're going to showcase in the RDS. So showcase is a business to business trade show. Right. It's where the buyers in Ireland and from America, lots from America, will come to choose the ranges for their shops. And so it's a big part of it would be the Design and Craft Council, the DCCI. Then there's lots of different brands. So you'll find like everything from the Sheep and Shamrocks brands, like, you know what I mean? The Aaron jumpers and all that, right down to people who are making beautiful pottery, who are making gorgeous things out of wood, jewellery, all sorts. So it's a huge cross section of craft. Right. And Leo had a village there, and they invited me in as to have a little booth as part of their village. And I went to that trade show, my first ever one, hadn't a breeze about margins, hadn't a breeze about, how stores work, point of sale, what would be needed.
Okay.
And they did a training course with me, and I cut my teeth at it. I went with 0 stockists to that 3-day event, and I came away with 40.
Whoa, 40 stockists.
Yeah, from that first ever event.
Right, so were you salesy, right? And you're out to sell people and close people, or were you just like, you're just so passionate about what you're doing that you're out to kind of, they're like, passion. They bought you?
It's pure passion.
Yeah.
It's absolute. I am not a hard sell person. I have a visceral reaction to hard sell.
Yeah.
And even now, if people are trying to sell me things, I'm like,
it's not nice. Yeah.
Whereas I think people buy people. People
definitely.
by passion, they they come along in the story with you, and if you can like show them why what you're doing is important and why you believe in it so much, and get them to come along in that story, not in any way is a sense of trying to manipulate them into thinking this is let me trick them or fool them into thinking that what I'm doing is deadly.
Yeah.
No, this is actually coming from a place of heart.
Okay. Yeah.
This is cause this is what I live and breathe, and that's purely what happened. I walked away with 40 stockists after that 3-day event.
How long, right, before you got the stockists, did you have to give them the stock, and did you have the stock ready to go?
No,
or?
I didn't. Oh my God. I was not, I thought I'd come away with maybe 5 stockists, and I had learned that I very, very quickly had to learn how to scale. Because at that point I was making everything myself. I was pouring my every counter in my kitchen, had jars. I was pouring, this was over here, this was over there. There was products all over the place. It was like a logistical nightmare. And everything was everywhere. I always say that my house was kind of like an oil slick because I work with olive oil a lot. I was like, I basically slide from one room to another like a penguin on its belly.
It's like a factory.
So I ended up having to learn to scale very, very fast. And I was very lucky that I made contact with a lady called Charlotte McCormick, and she had set up a business called Hire a Buyer. Now she works for the Smooth Company.
Oh, okay.
So that'll tell you how good she is.
Yeah.
But Charlotte worked in the beauty industry for donkeys, and she knew the ins and outs. She understood margins, cost of sale, how to break down every single thing so that you were making your profit margins hit. Because I was just going, I think people will pay €12 for them. Yeah, let's go with 12. And then she'd be like, well, hang on a second. How much is the cost? How much do your materials cost? And how much is this? And what about fat? And what about this? And what about your electricity that's on for you to have these things cooking here? And what about your time? How much is your time? And I'd be like, oh, well, I'm just making them. And she'd be like, no. How much is your time? And she goes, how much do you want to be earning of an hour? So I was like, God, well, like if I was to bring it back to what I earned in my last job. And she's like, okay. So she helped me to navigate the numbers, because numbers just don't work with me. But so to have someone who is so like entrenched in the details, and that's like she knew the industry inside out. She had worked for some of the biggest beauty brands in the world and helped them form their businesses. So to have her insight, she said to me, you need to get a lab. Okay. You need to work with a lab. And I was like, right, that's going to be a bit of a problem because I work with live plants. Like most beauty brands work with all ingredients with that they buy. Like they buy this, they buy that, and they mix it all together in a big pot, and that's how they make their ingredients. I'm working with plants. I'm pulling energies, I'm pulling ingredients. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. So she's like, right, we're just going to have to find someone who'll work with you your way. So I was very lucky to find a lab that would. Like in my first call with the lab, I said to them, so yeah, I'm a witch and this is how I want to work. And I think I expected like the eye rolls of here's your wand, like what's your wand up to, you know? But no, they were like, yeah, look, this sounds really exciting, let's do it. So now I work with a lab down in New Ross in Wexford. And so that's where we still do all the foraging in house. We do all the infusion work in house. They come and they collect the infusions, and they will do all of the final work. So the pouring, the label, the lidding, the jarring, the quality controlling, making sure that everything is fully compliant. Skincare is such a highly regulated industry. So to have a team of compliance lab techs, chemists who now can take my product from where I built it in my kitchen and then bring it to the next level was and then to be able to make it in much bigger batches.
Was that hard for you to let go of? Like you had to hand it over. You're like, are you going to be doing it right?
Terror, my baby. It was like handing my child over. But it's absolutely necessary because now there's still parts of me, the control part of me is like, oh, I'd love to be able to do it myself all in house, but I'd need to hire a huge team. So, and not to say that it won't happen again in the future, but I would have to develop a full facility for myself. I'd have to have a team, have cosmetic chemists, have compliance people. So it is something that, like, in my blue sky thinking, that eventually it will be something that we'll be able to fully manage ourselves. Okay. But for now, for scaling, that's it's
the most efficient way, right?
Yeah. And it means that we're ticking all the boxes.
Yeah. Did you just try scale with like 1 or 2 products, or because you've got like a range of 35 products in a way?
We've 25 SKUs, but like some of them will be gift sets and stuff like that. So the lab currently make 9 of them.
Right.
They make 9, and then there's other bits that we will do a small batching, but then a lot of it is the scoos are collections.
Yeah.
So three of those scoos might already go into that box. So that's another item. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but they will do the main hero product range.
Okay. And are you still out like picking plants and growing plants?
Yeah, absolutely. Like,
did your allotment get bigger or?
Allotment stayed the same, but it's very few vegetables up there now. It's all medicinal plants. So if there's something that I can't forage, like at this stage, the farmers up in Bohernabreena know me, and they're like, "Here is your one again," picking the weeds, you know. But it means that I've access to lots of land where there is untouched plants, unsprayed, not pollution, with no pollution on it, and I'm able to have access to this, and I teach young people how to ethically, sustainably forage. So people who are like me in transition year, who might have been, you know, they might not necessarily have fit in, but have an interest in nature and sustainability and biodiversity and trying to find their place. So they'll come and I'll teach them how to do it, and they'll come and be part of. It's almost like a project as part of their team.
How have you found like the transition from like employee to entrepreneur? Like, have you enjoyed it? Has it all just kind of, have you just taken it all in its stride, or have you always been kind of looking then for the next thing, or how do I make it bigger? How do I make it better?
The shift from becoming an employee to an entrepreneur was terrifying.
Yeah.
Taking a leap of knowing what's going into my bank every month to not knowing what's going into my bank every month is horrific. But for anybody who is at that point, what I'll say is there's never a right time. Now is always the right time. Just take your leap, because if you are putting so much work into somebody else's business, does your business not deserve that? Does your business not deserve that time and effort and care and stuff that you put into somebody else's business? If you are doing well as a side hustle, and you can take all that energy you're giving to somebody else and put it in on top of what you're currently doing, it's going to explode. It's going to do really well. That part, terrifying. But now, my God, my brain is constantly thinking of the next thing. Like, we're in the process of developing a program. Well, it's developed a program for corporates to bring nature into corporate environments. So it'd be a case of putting in allotments into green spaces that they might have. Maybe it's a roof, maybe it's a car park, maybe it's a green space within a courtyard, to help their staff mental health, to help entice biodiversity, offset carbon footprint, and help with their ESG strategies as well. Help with their ESG strategies by being able to bring nature into their work environment. Like, if you were to, like, we've done a number of events with big brands, big blue chips, and like a lot of their staff might come from Central America or from Eastern Europe, where agriculture is a huge part of their lifestyle, their upbringing, and then they arrive to Dublin for this cool job that they're landing, but they're living in a concrete jungle. They're living in an apartment with other people, and they don't have access to space to grow or to be able to have access to nature. So by being able to bring that to people, it's incredible what it does for mental health. So we're working on rolling that out now.
Brilliant. So that's kind of like an urban farm thing you're putting.
Yeah, absolutely. So I did it as a pilot in Bohernabreena allotment. So we did it for and we're going into our third year now. It's called Grow a Lot, and so a lot, like allotment, and we built. I built it with Jimmy Phibbs, the gentleman who owns my allotments, to give back to people who need to grow, who need to have access to the soil. Like, there's so many studies that show that working with the land is so fantastic for your mental health, your dopamine levels, your serotonin levels, just your absolute clarity and peace. So to be able to give people who like that might live in apartments, or maybe they live in rented accommodation and can't dig up a garden to put in plants. Do you know what I mean? Or maybe they don't know where to start. So we launched this as a small campaign. We gave away 10 allotment beds, which are only like 1 meter by 3 meters, small little plots, to give people an opportunity, I say, to flirt with growing.
Yeah.
Because taking on a whole allotment is a big task. It's a lot of work. Whereas if you have a small little contained space, we were really lucky to be supported by the likes of Lidl. They got on board and they sponsored it. Lots of different companies got in. Timber Troves all of the wood for it. We got really, really supported by the local community. And in that first year that we rolled it out, the shift that the people who came on board found in their mental health was absolutely huge. And of the 10 people who came on, 9 were last year, 7 of them stayed on as allotmenters.
Oh,
And
okay.
now being a grower is a huge part of their lives, of their children's lives. Like one lady, Louise, she's an SNA in a school, and like that, she'd never grown anything before. Now she's building allotment in her school.
Right.
For children to be able to access and to be able to help with children who need to have that quiet space, because the tactility that of being able to work with
Yeah.
sensory that comes with working with plants.
Brilliant. Yeah, 'cause-
So it's having this gorgeous knock-on effect. Once people find that connection, it doesn't stop.
yeah.
It flows.
There's a whole, that's brilliant actually what you're doing, Nick. Because it flows right through then from like grassroots all the way through to your product at the end stage.
Yeah. So it's telling, it's like, I live this. Do
Yeah.
you know what I mean? This isn't just
You can tell like you're real passionate about it.
but this isn't just it's not just a job for me that I'm going to sell this business off, because I know a lot of entrepreneurs are like, build it, sell it,
Build it,
sell it. Exit strategy. I know.
This is yours, baby, forever.
this
kind of
is
thing.
it's too important to me.
Yeah.
It's like my heart is in it.
I suppose, is there, I know you get into Kilkenny design this week, was it?
Yes.
Yeah, so congratulations.
Thank you.
But is there any other like shops or brands that you want to be stocked in now, or?
God, like there's so many. Like we've actually just launched into the UK.
Okay, brilliant.
And we're currently in over 100 stores now here in Ireland. We're in 12 in America, and we've just launched into the UK. And we were very lucky. Back in September, I went and did a trade show in the NEC in Birmingham, and we were handpicked by a gentleman called Alan Roper, who is the CEO of Blue Diamond Garden Centres. Now,
Okay.
Blue Diamond Garden Centres own 53 garden centres across the UK. So like stuff like that is like absolutely humongous to me. You know what I mean? That because garden centres tie in so well with what we do. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? But like, oh look, there's all the, if I was to take all the nature side things away of it and go into straight beauty, I'd be like, oh yeah, like Sephora and Liberty London or Harrods and all these big. But actually getting to work with Irish institutions like Kilkenny Design, like Meadows and Byrne, like Foxford Woollen Mills, and then also small independents like Project 29 here in Ireland, like Unbound in Cork, all of these beautiful Sunfleck in Dungarvan, all these gorgeous stores that are run generally female-led, sustainably led, really beautifully curated. Flower Pop here in Dublin as well. Sorry, I just keep naming off all these gorgeous stores. I'm like, oh my God, I'm very lucky that all of these beautiful stores have chosen me. So it's not a case of me seeking prestige, and even part of my plan this year is not to go seeking prestige. I don't want to be constantly chasing the fluff. What I want to do is to develop the relationships that I have with the stockists who've put their faith in me.
Okay.
So we're currently building out a whole program for all of our stores, the forager sessions, which would be like training, a whole suite of marketing for them, because I know how hard it is to be able to take care of your social media when you're trying to run a store.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden social media is a whole other thing. So we're building out a whole program that they will have lots of access to, lots of content, that their team feel confident pushing out there, that their team feel confident when they're talking about my products, and to be able to give them support, be it in store, do events, in-store events, meet the makers. So it's to deepen the heart of my relationships with these people who've been putting their trust in me for the past few years, and I want to give that back to them.
Yeah, so community is a massive part of what you're doing.
Yeah.
Which is brilliant. If, let's say, there is a buyer out there that wants to kind of stock your product, where could they find you?
Oh,
Or
well, my
how would they reach out to you?
my website's forager.ie, but they can always contact me directly. It's Feebee at forager.ie, and it's Feebee. We work with phonetics. Feebee at forager.ie. And but yeah, just to reach out and chat and see if we're a good fit for each other.
Brilliant. And I also seen that you were saying you wanted to create, I think, a women's clothing brand, workwear brand. Is that in the pipeline now?
Oh my God, this is the absolute entrepreneur thing where you're the
It's
merch.
always like the
You're
next
constantly
thing.
thinking of something else. I know I'm dressed in pink today, but I'm normally in dungarees and wellies and boots and gloves, and my hair is tied up and I have twigs in my hair. There's usually muck on my face and dirt under my nails. I would love to develop a range of women's workwear, because there aren't solid women's workwear that are readily available. So clothes that are breathable, that move with a woman's body, which are very different. I talk about my beef with Snickers I currently have, because I went into Snickers in Ballymount. I hope you are listening. Right. Snickers and Ballymount, and they have all of these men's clothes everywhere, every size you could dream of. And I was like, and where's the women's ones? Like, because I'd love to just try on a pair of workwear.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, there's a catalogue. And I was like, but can I not try anything? No, you have to order from the catalogue. And I was like, but women really need to try on clothes. We've got hips, we've got thighs, with different shaped bodies. We've completely different shaped bodies. And they were like, no, you can only order from the catalogue. Yet on the wall, they have a whole range of kids' gimmick workwear.
Okay.
So the kids can dress up like their daddy.
Right.
But women's workwear isn't available to try on. So I have total beef with them. So I'm like, you know what? Somebody has to take a hold of this. So I'd love to develop a cool, very cool
I'll
looking.
see if I can get you in there for a collaboration.
Tell you, something needs to give, because there aren't solid, really functioning workwear that works with women's bodies.
Okay. Right, so that's in that sounds like it's in the pipeline now as well.
That is just another one of these things. And my friend Carl from nixer.me, he's like, let's just do it. And I'm like, oh, for God's sake, I need to focus on one thing at a time. This is the ADHD brain going off in tangents. Oh, sure, I'm writing a book as well at the moment. I'd love to develop a whole other line of merch, of tools. Stop. It doesn't stop.
It doesn't stop, yeah. It's non-stop. But it's always like the next thing. Like, it just breeds business, right? And that's
I think when you are an entrepreneur, you're naturally an ideas person.
Yeah.
You almost need someone not to say, let's do it, but to rein you in and go, is this going to make money? What would this cost? What does this look like financially? And that's what I need, somebody to bring it back to that, because I just go, let's just order a load of stuff and see if it'll sell.
But that's why CFOs don't make good CEOs. But I suppose, what advice would you give to someone, let's say, that was like that 26-year-old that's stuck in a job they don't love? Like, what advice would you give them?
Find something that you are passionate about. If you are looking to become an entrepreneur, if you're looking to start your own business or carve out a piece of this world for you, find it, make it be something that you love. Because I know it's that cliche of you'll never work a day in your life. I work every day. Yeah. I work my ass off every single day. But would I change it? No. Do I love it? Absolutely. Would I be able to go back and work for somebody else? I really hope I never have to.
Yeah.
Because but don't do it just because it's something that's going to make you money. Do it because you found your why, you found a reason, and you want to bring something new to the world.
Yeah. Do you think entrepreneurial or being an entrepreneur is for everyone?
No, I don't.
Do you recommend it?
Well, for people like me, yeah. I have friends who are incredible at their roles, absolutely incredible at their roles, but but probably wouldn't thrive or wouldn't want to be an entrepreneur. That they have a completely different mental ability. They their brains work in a completely different way to me, and a lot of people love the stability of working in a full-time job. I'd love the stability as well. Don't get me wrong. But that part, the stability part, and I get it why people who have mortgages find it very hard to take that jump, because sometimes it's leaner than others. Yeah. So like, I now weigh my year up as a 10-month year in a 12-year calendar. Right. That's the way I have to do it. So it gives me breathing space that if there's a month that is a bit quieter, that I'm not going freaking out.
You have to have those reserves.
Yeah, and I think a lot of tradespeople do that as well. Yeah. And I think that kind of comes. My dad was a carpenter, and that was the way my mum ran my dad's business. It was a 10-month year in a 12-month calendar, because there would have been months like that in January. Always after Christmas, it was always a leaner time. So to make sure that you're not. That's
good advice, actually, right? And it's kind of like what you have to do as an entrepreneur, but no one has actually ever said it. So. Yeah, run your business in a 10-month year, not a 12-month year, because just keep yourself with a breathing space.
Yeah.
It's good. All right, friend. So if anyone wants to find you, right, I know you've mentioned your website. Where else can they find you?
I am all over. I'm an Instagram oversharer. So at forager.ie on Instagram, you'll see me on Ireland AM every month, and I talk about nature. That's usually on a morning time. It can be different days.
Catch you on YouTube though as well.
Catch me on YouTube, on TikTok. Sure, listen, you find me generally along the Dodder with my whippet Sika.
Okay. When's your next walk or a nature walk?
Oh, and my next big event is actually in Gormanston Woods on the 25th to 26th of April. And I'm doing that with FRO, Free Range Outdoor Education, and Cranchiog. So that is a Bealtaine event. So people will come into the woods. I teach them about foraging. We teach them how to make lots of different things in the woods. There's meditation and connecting to the deities of the land. We cook food over an open fire, cast iron. You learn how to strike your own fire out of ferro rods, and you can camp in the woods. So that will be the next one. So if you're interested in that, it's going to be a fabulous event.
And where do you get tickets, or do you just show?
Fro.ie, FROE.ie. Yeah, Free Range Outdoor Education. Yeah.
All right, brilliant. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much. It's been lovely to chat to you.
Thank you.
A massive thanks to Feebee for sharing her journey from allotments to award-winning skincare and everything in between. If you enjoyed this conversation, make sure to follow, subscribe and share it with someone who'd love Feebee's story. A special thanks to our sponsors Top Drawer Talent and Nesta Storage. Thanks for listening. This has been the 1040 podcast, and I'll catch you on the next one.